Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. This is the Wrestling Fans Insight Sunday Takedown. I'm your host, John Hoppe, along with my co-host, the man of the hour, Mr. Rainbow Goodness, Carlos. How you doing,
Hey,
brother?
what's good? I think I'm regretting. I had Brock Purdy, but I got to pick up George Kittle in my fantasy football, and I'm like, damn, I should have kept him. He's doing really good. So
First off,
again, I think I'm like everybody else. We got all these different. I think the next 20 weeks or whatever, 19 weeks plus playoffs. Like it's the weekends of multitasking. Like, oh, let me try to do these 20 things at once. Get to know what it's like to feel like a mom.
I would say this would be pretty much wrestling's off season because, you know, it's no secret we tend to lose viewership because of NFL, and that's a religion right there in itself. So,
Right?
but the next time you talk Brock Purdy, you need to do it in the Paul Heyman voice, like Jim
Brock.
Fenn and the band did. Brock Purdy. So
Whoa. Okay.
sorry.
Did you take a testosterone pill or what?
No, I had my weekend high because I just barely made it in time to get things set up for today's show, and William and myself were up in the mountains, so I just figure got some relaxation finally. Now I somewhat energized, but realized I don't have shit to talk about because I haven't been able to watch any wrestling.
God, thank you, Jesus. My prayers have been answered.
So for your listening pleasure, we will be off the air shorter than usual today. I'll have to hear my old man voice and Carlos go on his tangent, and who knows, maybe someone else will pop in and make it a little more entertaining for us today,
Yeah.
for our one listener. So, but how'd you feel about this week's programming overall? Not just AEW, but WWE.
It's I thought WWE was really good. I mean, I think the whole thing with Gunther and Chad Gable was really good. I thought, on Friday Night SmackDown they tease LA Knight, baby feeding with the bloodline. They kind of backtrack on some things, but at the same time, I think they're going in a really good direction. I think SmackDown's is a strong show. But yeah, I mean, you can just tell like LA Knight. I think for me, seeing that they placed him as internally as the number one face now, he's getting to sign a new contract. He just the pop that he got was like crazy, and just how and even like Dominic Mysterio. I mean, the fans, and again, I think a lot of like we talked about too. I feel like with WWE fans, they're just conditioned to do what WWE wants them to do, which is fine. But I mean, you cannot deny the amount of heat that Dominic gets. And again, it makes sense is why they put the tag titles on Judgment Day, because now you can have them on both shows. But just the amount of LA Knight too. I mean, it's like it's electrifying, to copy Rock's phrase from the Attitude Era days when he comes out too. And for me with AEW, it was good. Like for me, I just feel honestly, if you're gonna ask, like, put the question this way, did they knock it out of the park, or did they ground out to first, after the whole thing with CM Punk? I would say they grounded out to first. There was good matches on the show, but at the same time, besides one match, I just kind of felt everything was predictable. And I just think they're not doing enough in my opinion, to retain the Saturday night audience. They're just using a lot of developmental talent, I would say, to be, kind of be blunt about it. And then they're just bringing in talent, like they brought in luchadors, which again, I love Lucha Libre, but at the same time, this isn't going to get people to tune in on Saturdays. And I just don't, and for me, like as a fan, I know it's easy to sit there and say, well, if you don't like it, don't watch it. But it's like, and I'm grateful that I have the time to watch it. Like it's kind of like I work Saturdays. So it's kind of like my thing to mellow out to and come home to watch. And I look forward to coming home to watch it. But if I didn't have the time, I wouldn't feel compelled to watch it. And I don't want to see them lose this television time. For me, that's what it's about. For me, is I don't want to see them lose this TV deal. I don't want to see the fans of pro wrestling lose 2 hours of wrestling every week. Like I want to make sure everything's being done possible to retain this real estate that we're getting on a national TV. That's how I look at things.
Well, you also have to look at the fact not just when NFL season's going into play, when college football is in play. I mean, that dominates the entire weekend already as it is. And Saturday nights are going to be the hardest one to compete because college football does, and it's not just watching local on the local level. I mean, you have many college football fans that watch it every game, even with their competitors and everything. So it's college football is just as much of a religion as the NFL, and that was my worry when Collision was brought to Saturday nights. You're right in that time frame for the evening games, and it unless you're actually going to have wrestling fans who are going to be the diehards, you need to make it very entertaining because if you don't, you're going to lose them very easy. And Saturday program, unfortunately, ends up being another 605 night for TBS. It, Collision's on TBS, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. I think they're going to have to do a lot of work because
No, it's on TNT. Sorry, it's on TNT.
Oh, it is TNT. I mean, either way, whichever channel it's on, it's not going to matter. You got to keep the fans entertained because if you don't get it to the point where they'll flip and say, "Ooh, I'd rather watch the wrestling than college football." I mean, I think it's no secret when we lost CM Punk, we lost a lot of the interest of what Saturday night's going to bring, and I. I guess you kind of see where I'm going with this. If you don't find a way to keep those fans entertained or say, "Oh, I want to flip the channel, see what's going on here," you pretty much just lost.
And that's my point. That's exactly what, and that's my point. So don't be giving me, and again, I like them both. I mean, he's in my perfect, but don't be giving me Angelico versus Ray Phoenix. That's not going to get the job done.
No.
Having Chris Statlander versus Robin Renegade is not going to get the job done. It's just like, and that's what I mean. It's like, and then they had, so Jade Cargill came back last night. But instead of having her elevate and go after the AEW women's title, you're putting her back with the TBS champion. Like that just to me is like, that's shitting the bed to be, and that's what I mean. It's like just, it's like, it's not doing what needs to be done. Like if you want to get these fans, I mean, like you need to be fun for every viewer. And again, they have a huge roster, and that's the one part where the guy, it's in the thing on the Jumbotron in our Twitter space. Is like the Tranquilo Club. He's a Hispanic fan out of Texas, and he's like a super fan of AEW. He's done a lot, and he's really pro AEW. He doesn't even watch WWE programming. And he has a really good voice. He has a voice in on the IWC, and for him to even be criticizing just the overprotection of the roster, and it's like, you need to cook, I mean, and I don't think these guys are afraid of taking losses. I didn't think it's Tony Khan's booking that he doesn't want to give these guys losses, and if there are guys that don't want to take a loss, then they shouldn't be on the program. It's like, you have such a big roster, utilize these guys, give me the House of Black every week, like utilize these guys, utilize your talent. Like, to me, it would make sense, like, for example, like if you had Cash Wheeler in a singles matchup, it makes sense that he would lose to a top heel singles wrestler because his bread and butter is tag team wrestling. So instead of bringing in a luchador from AAA, like, you utilize him to do it because it's more believable that he's not going to be able to pull the match out. And
We temporarily lost Carlos there for a minute.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. We temporarily kind of lost you for a minute there.
Oh.
So kind of retouch what you said the last 30 seconds.
Oh, so for utilizing a guy like a Cash Wheeler instead, like a guy who's his bread and butter is tag team wrestling, and utilizing him to go there and fight a singles matchup against a guy like a Samoa Joe or something like that, or just someone else, like utilizing your tag team wrestlers. Because again, if someone's a tag team wrestler, it's more believable that they would like lose in a singles match but win in a tag team. So utilize your roster more to get these guys instead of bringing in these guys from AAA, bringing in these independent guys who usually feature in a Ring of Honor. Just bring in the people that are there to take these wins and losses and just make the show more compelling instead of just giving us matches that, yeah, the action's good, but it's not something I feel like I need to watch, and that's the thing for me. Like, I'm fortunate, like I was telling her, I'm fortunate enough to where I have the time and I have the passion where, I'm gonna watch this show, but to anybody else, the show's very passable, and it shouldn't be so many open challenges. Like, again, I don't like the man, but to coin a phrase from Cornette, it's just a lot of lazy booking, and it just needs to be more compelling booking, better storytelling. And to me, like, if you're gonna, if you're gonna have, your elites and guys on Dynamite, then utilize, your Collision to have the stronger women's roster too. And it just, to me, seems like such a waste of it's just a big mess, and it just needs to be more compelling television.
Exactly. I think right now they kind of need to go back to basics. But one thing I would love to see restructured, we need to have like your big meaty guys is the heavyweight division. We need to have that, a couple of mid-card titles, like similar to, make the AEW International Championship somewhat similar to like something where the WCW United States Championship level. You've got your TV champion tiers like the TBS and the TNT championships. We have a tag team division, a trios tag division. I think one thing AEW could focus on, because they have so many little guys, let's get a cruiserweight division going. I mean, if you're going to be bringing guys who you don't know but can entertain the fans, let's get a division going for that area and put it either with Dynamite or put it with Collision. However, just like you said, you don't want to just throw any Joe Smo on there either. That's something maybe you should either use for Rampage or have them in Ring of Honor for a little bit to develop until you're ready to bring them to the main level on the AEW Collision or Dynamite. There's just a lot of restructuring I think Tony Khan needs to work on. He obviously, as we've been saying for months now, he needs a creative team as well to take the reins and get things together, because right now it's like you said, as Jim Cornette's mentioned, it's a lot of lazy booking, and it's showing right now. He just had 2 great pay-per-views, but you can't just rely off 2 great pay-per-views and then all of a sudden go back to crap weekly programming. Their next pay-per-view is it Revolution or is it that Wrestle Dream or whatever?
It's gonna be Wrestle Dream, and so then that's the thing too. So they announced for Wrestle Dream it's gonna be Zack Sabre Jr. versus Brian Danielson, or yeah. So we're getting that match at Wrestle Dream.
So is that the main event, or is that just the first announced match?
It's just the first announced match. So, to tie on to what you said, like, and to me, like I agree with you. Like, AEW is a promotion that's fun and they have fun with it. So like do the meat championship, and have the big meaty men, because that's the thing where, I'm glad you brought it up, because that's what triggered in my head when I was watching the show yesterday. Like, one of the big complaints about is about Dynamite is like you have all these big guys losing to all these smaller guys, and so make Collision the show where these guys don't do that, and make it where you do have your Brian Cages, your Ethan Pages, your Wardlows, your Powerhouse Hobbs, your Miros, your Brody Kings, like all these guys, like have the meat championship. Why not have fun with it? And like you said too, and then have like, to me, like I would have Collision be the big meaty man, stop a beat, and I'd have it be the AEW women's division. Like, have that be more, I'd have it more showcasing the bigger stars, and then I would have Dynamite be like you said, I would have a cruiserweight title there, or even like a lucha title, like make it like the lucha title, like do that on Dynamite, and then I'd have the TBS title on TBS, and then I would do more of your traditional style of AEW wrestling on Wednesdays, but just give both the shows an identity, and because that's another thing that most fans are fearful of seeing this. And is it just going to be super Rampage on Saturdays? And that's what it feels like. I mean, they did some good segments, and the fact that just because you have Ricky Starks on Saturday doesn't and FTR, that's their main show. It doesn't cure everything, And like one of the things too is for next week, the big title match to get me to tune in is going to be FTR defending the titles against what's their name? The guys, Bear Country. That's like I forget their new name, but like that's the match that's gonna get people to tune in, is like those guys. And again, they're a great tag team, but it's like,
oh, we lost Carlos again.
And that's supposed to get me to tune in next week? No, sorry.
Yeah, it just right now it's such a cluster. It's almost as bad as the example I'm going to give when we had WWE have their Raw Women's Champion on SmackDown and their SmackDown Women's Champion on Raw. Just get it organized. There's nothing wrong with having some kind of structure, but have a team to structure for you, Tony Khan. I mean, get it together. Right now, you've got a good roster on hand. Let's start utilizing them right. Let's get a developmental going. I think Rampage or Ring of Honor, use either of those two programming segments, build your younger guys, get the people who need to improve their skills, and then when they're ready, let's move them up. But let's also try to get some kind of organization going by class. You don't call it a World Heavyweight Championship and then have someone with, sorry, Carlos, you don't have someone with the likes of Rey Mysterio win your World Heavyweight Championship, I mean, let's get those big meaty guys in their proper division, get the smaller guys in their proper division, get the mid guys in those mid-card divisions. The thing that just drives me nuts, though, is right now I think they really do need to work on their tag team division. I think they got a good base for it, but I'm kind of like how Bryan's mentioned it before. I'm one of those traditional guys that likes to see tag teams in uniform in many ways, Look at your Brain Busters, the Hart Foundation, Demolition, the Legion of Doom, Road Warriors. What's another one? Fabulous Rougeos. I can't believe I used that. Sorry, everybody. Your Midnight Express, the Horsemen. You got so many great examples right there. That's what tag team wrestling in both companies are missing right now. And I would love to see that come back, really. And I think if AEW pulls that off, they would have a killer tag team division right there.
And the thing was, and that's like, and the thing I've mentioned before, like on this previous bit, I'll say it again, like the one thing that hooked me the first time I tuned in AEW, like, I mean, I remember like this is my truth, right? Like I literally bought cable to watch AEW wrestling, like, and that's the truth. Like I just had internet at home, and I would just use my Hulus and things like that. And then I was like, okay, I feel like I'm missing out on this. And it was like, and so I literally bought, the first thing I bought was YouTube television just so I could watch AEW wrestling. And I was like, and the first thing that hooked me was the tag team division, and that to me is just like, they're missing the boat. And like, even like, so then on Friday too, on Rampage, like, so Ortiz or Santana gave a speech and he pretty much said that he's going to go do things on his own. And it's like, no, I'm sorry, but Tony Khan, you're paying us, man. Like, I don't care if they don't get along, like make them be a tag team. If they don't want to be a tag team, then release them. It's like, you're paying the bills, and it's like, don't be afraid to be a boss, and and to me, like, that was the one thing I feel like, you created the trios division because you had so many good tag teams, and it's like, and so you created this to kind of, offset that. But in all of that, like you've lost the sense of your tag team division. It just doesn't make any. There's no rhyme or reason to how he's booking this, and it's a fucking clusterfuck, And now because MJF and Adam Cole have the belts, all of a sudden, like the Ring of Honor titles feel more prominent than the AEW titles, and that should never be the case. I don't care who has the titles. Like it just, you don't do that shit. And it's just, to me, and that's like another question I'd ask. And to me, like I asked, but it didn't really fall anything. I asked too. Like to me, like Ring of Honor should be the developmental brand, and it's like, but you're just using it to to give it the titles to other people because you don't want to make a harsh booking decision and put your big boy pants on and put the title on somebody else. So you use the Ring of Honors as a what do you call it, as a I can't think of the right word I'm using, like a assemble piece, like, as like oh, here's part of my my outfit, and it's like and an accessory, an accessory is the word I was looking for, but it doesn't give any merit because you're kind of downgrading your other titles. It just doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. And that's the thing. He has so many talented tag teams. Utilize your division, Butcher Blade, like let all these guys cook, and that's the thing. Like you said, I think with Collision 2, like make sure you have a tag team match featuring your tag teams every week. It just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it is just going back to basics.
Mm-hmm.
And we've already hit this on the head already this segment, but organization is key. It really is. And I like the fact that you touched that we've been seeing the Ring of Honor tag team championships, but not just that. We've seen other Ring of Honor titles on the AEW programming. And what drives me nuts is it's okay. Why don't we get Ring of Honor either a TV slot or, promote it a little more with the Ring of Honor Club? That's what it's called, right?
Yeah, correct.
Honor Club. That's what
Yeah.
it is. I mean, good Lord, we saw WWE Net come out with the WWE Network at first, and you saw how heavily they promoted that, especially the price, the $9.99 chance forever. And it's just, to me, we need Tony Khan to assemble a team that can kind of organize it and just let the team do their job. And Tony Khan, just sit back, go golfing for the day, go see what the Jaguars are doing, just kick back, see what somebody else can do. Because I think a lot of these guys have good creative moments too. It's just he needs to be trusting of
It might think too is like I think about Enzo, like it's Tony can see soft, and maybe he's heartbroken, like a bad breakup because he lost CM Punk, and his heart's not into the booking anymore, But at the same time, if that's the case, then take a break and let someone else book for a couple weeks and see what they do with the program. Go ahead, Hamlin. Hamlin, welcome to the show. What do you want to say?
In regards to AEW, just before we start, is this do I have to keep it PG?
No, hell no. Fuck no. How's that?
Hamlin, will you watch your fucking language today, please?
What the fuck you talking about? Fuck.
All right. Hey, all right. But no. I watched Collision yesterday. I looked at that card and I kept repeating to myself the phrase, "What happened to the game I loved?" Right?
Yeah.
Because look, I'm not gonna lie. I did watch Collision a lot for Punk, but outside of Punk, there was so much exciting stuff that was happening, right? FTR and Bullet Club Gold, for example, literally delivered one of the greatest matches that AEW.
I think the match of the year.
Match of the year, right? It's better than anything that the Cucamonga Kids have done. I'll say that much.
Correct.
Right? And the spirit and the soul of Collision was the fact that it wasn't Dynamite, right? Because the AEW's always said that they want to be a buffet for wrestling and all that, right? That's fine. So on Dynamite, you have the super fast-paced show with the super fast-paced types of matches, right? Like for example, with the Luchadors, right? You had the Luchadors, you had Joshi matches, and you had more car crashes, and things moved faster, and it was a hectic, frenetic show, right? Always meant to keep you on the edge of your seat. Whereas with Collision, they gave things more time, they let things breathe more. The matches, they had more of an emphasis on the in-ring storytelling than anything else, right? And that's what I loved about that show more than anything. Because what Collision was for me those first 7 weeks was everything I hated about WWE and everything I hated about AEW was gone. And they took the best parts of both those types of presentation and put it into one show, right? It was crisp, clean, and it was well paced, right? It wasn't too fast, it wasn't too slow. Everything was given time to breathe, and every main event was literally like 20-30 minutes, right? So that's what I loved about it, and that's the WWE side of it. Whereas the AEW side of it was that people felt authentic, they felt unique. You could see that people that nobody was being pigeonholed into something that they didn't want to do, right? Every person's character, you could tell that they had input into, right? Like you would never hear a name like the Bang Bang Gang on WWE TV, for example, right? But they made people who were doing, I'll be honest, nothing on Dynamite into stars on Collision. Look at how Juice Robinson and the Guns were viewed 3 months ago compared to now. Right? Juice Robinson went from being why the hell is this guy signed to being one of the most entertaining parts of the show. The Guns went from being called the Ass Boys
to the Guns, yeah.
People actually calling them the Guns, right? And they're great. Bullet Club and Ricky Starks. Ricky Starks is finally back in the spotlight, which he was kind of losing after his feud with MJF, right? And you had these, right? And FTR based on Collision, and the spirit of the show is gone.
Hey Hamlin, are you moving by chance?
Yeah, because you're cutting in and out now.
And people are going to say, "Oh, it's a big sick." I don't want the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega on Saturdays. I don't want to see John Moxley on Saturdays. When I think of those guys, I think Dynamite. I think of that type of wrestling style. I want to see people like Bullet Club Gold, FTR, right? Ricky Starks, Will Hobbs, Miro, Dalton Castle and the Boys, people like that, right? The Kingdom. Now there's, right, Christian Cage even. There's some people who can go both ways, right? Like Darby Allin can be on either show and he fits well. Same with somebody like a Swerve Strickland, right? But the soul of Collision is gone now, and that's what makes me more upset than anything.
So like, did you like we were talking about this? If you heard would you support like them why not like making like the meat championship and having all these guys fight for that title? Would you support that on Collision?
I mean, you don't need a title for that. You don't need a title for that though. You can literally just have the TNT title take that role, right? Because it's clear now that because of Orange Cassidy's run, the international title is the one for the workhorses and all that.
Well, what Carlos was trying to get at is go back to having the basics. Like you have a heavyweight division, your cruiserweight division, your TV division, your, whatever your upper mid-card title division would be. Now, he wasn't necessarily saying making a new title.
Oh, okay, I understand.
You know what I mean?
You can have the big men be more prominently featured on.
Yeah, have it be the two women's matches and have and to me have the because we're on Dynamite you see a Brian Cage losing to a smaller guy to a Orange Cassidy on a Dynamite, but you would never see that on Collision. Collision's where the big boys play to still learn from WCW and right. Having and have it be have even for me when the whole roster split thing happened. I was having fun with it because that's what we do, right? We fantasy book and stuff like that. So to me, when I split the roster, I split the roster for Collision to purposely have the bigger guys on there, and I had guys who would appear on both Ring of Honor and Collision, and then on Dynamite is where, and then if there was gonna be crossover, I would use guys from let's say from Impact Wrestling, for example, to come over. But Dynamite would be the show where you have the guys from New Japan, the guys from AAA come over, or you'd have more of that style there, and just kind of keeping Collision to more of that pure division, that pure kind of style of wrestling. Because I agree,
old school American wrestling. That's exactly what Collision needs to be.
And and again, and utilize those guys. It's okay to so you have your guys, have it be have your Moxley, your Omega, your Orange, those whatever those guys are, Darby's. Have those 8 guys. Maybe there's 8 guys you identify, and have one of them on Collision every week. To maybe just to draw people over if you feel like you need to. Yeah, but utilize. utilize those guys like Ethan Page, who is buying at the bit to be on television.
Right.
Your Scorpio Skies, your Wardlows, your Brian Cages. Those guys could cook, and that's the problem. Like have it be for the guys who aren't getting nothing to eat on Dynamite, it's just
Brian
go ahead.
Cage, Brian Cage specifically though, he's part of the Mogul Embassy. The thing with Brian Cage is he's not interesting enough to be by.
Watch your words. No, just kidding.
Hey, I'm sorry, man. We already saw it, right? We already saw him as a babyface from it. It doesn't work. It didn't work, right? And Brian Cage is perfect in the role he's in right now, right? Doesn't say too much. Doesn't overstay his welcome. Looks good every time he's in the ring, and he fits perfectly with the Mogul Embassy. Keep him the way it is, right? The reason, right? The reason I said Darby Allin works well is because Darby is a guy who can actually. I know when people think of Darby, they think of the dives and all that. But if you actually watch him wrestle, right, he can wrestle both styles. He can have a classic match, for example, his match with CM Punk, his match with Christian Cage, right? That was his match with Christian. It was one of my favorite matches. I loved watching that because it's the first time you saw Darby have to wrestle his way out of it, then stunt his way out of it.
Yeah, and the thing I like about Darby too, and the thing I appreciate about him is he's not afraid to take a loss. And the thing with him though is I feel like he's one of those guys that does have Tony Khan's ear, so he is perfect for a Collision because he's the guy where Tony Khan might not want somebody else to take the loss. Like he'll let Darby take the loss, and because Darby kind of has his ear, so that's a good thing in a way too.
Right. Brody, okay, we're talking about the meat division, right?
Yeah.
Look at the guys you have on Collision already: Will Hobbs, Miro, Brody King, Luchasaurus. There's 4 right there.
Big Bill,
right?
Yeah.
There's your 5. Wardlow, Big Bill. You got 6, right? Hell, just put Keith Lee on the show. Oh wait, he was on the show.
Keith Lee's on the exactly. That's what I'm saying. Brian Cage. I put Brian Cage over there too.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then you can have Brian Cage pop up every now and then, right? Or Shane Taylor, or here. How are we forgetting? This guy, Samoa Joe. Right?
And then Ethan Page.
I don't know. I wouldn't put Ethan Page in the meat division. He's one of those guys. He's like Hangman. He's like Hangman Page. He's not a heavyweight, but he hits like a heavyweight.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. It's just the soul. I don't want the soul of Collision to go away because I'm telling you, for me, it was the perfect wrestling show. It's what I've wanted from wrestling for so long, and I was struggling to find it. And the sad thing about Punk being gone is Danielson's vision of wrestling is I don't think Bryan Danielson necessarily has a clear vision for the show like Punk does. I think Danielson's more the type of guy who says, okay, look, this is what I want to do. These are the types of things that I want to see. And I think his thing is more variety rather than connectivity, I guess. I know that's not a word, but you guys get what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, I get what you're saying. The flow, the whole show, he has a different kind of wrestling mind. He's not selfish enough like CM Punk is.
Hey, Punk, I'll say this, man, about CM Punk. It sucks that it ended up the way it was because when it comes to wrestling, the guy is a goddamn genius. Genuinely. I've never seen somebody be more, at least in my lifetime. Keep in mind, I grew up during the PG era, right? When I was a kid, I was watching John Cena and Alex Riley on main eventing television, right? So, sorry, The Miz and Alex Riley, main eventing television. So, let's just say I didn't grow up during the best period to be a wrestling fan. But Punk was the one guy that during that time who always caught my attention because he was the one genuine person in a room full of cartoon characters, right? And it took me a while to find that. Now I find that when people like Ricky Starks, people like MJF, right? And Eddie Kingston, obviously. Eddie Kingston would be good on either side too. I think he's somebody who could fit in both camps.
No, I agree. And again, my biggest thing too, the thing that made me mad too. So, John, I know you didn't get to watch Collision, but so at Grand Slam, we're getting Eddie Kingston versus Claudio, title versus title.
Interesting.
But again, but to me, again, that's the one thing I said where if they would have pivoted and if that would have been on, again, he should have just put that on All Out, which is an actual pay-per-view. That would have made the show a 10 out of 10 for me right there. So it's like, and that's the frustrating. So again, so you're on Grand Slam, which is just a Dynamite show. We're getting the world title match, MJF versus probably, which is going to be Samoa Joe, and now we're getting title versus title, Claudio versus Eddie Kingston. And to me, like, you couldn't have given one of those matches to All Out. Like, come on.
Yeah, they should have obviously made that championship match right then. Now you got 2 world title matches in the same pay-per-view.
Well, not in pay-per-view, like special episode of weekly television.
Well, okay, either way, a pay-per-view or a special episode. Okay, that to me, it drives me nuts.
Exactly.
Unless it was like Forbidden Door, where you got you got the IWGP.
This cross-promotional show.
Yeah, you got like an IWGP world title on the line, or like the 10 pounds of gold on the line, or AEW's world title on the line. That's one thing, but now where you got the main brand with its development brand, both world titles in the same program, yeah, that doesn't normally work very well. That definitely should have been a match that happened at All Out.
Yep. I mean, it's not that match, and like Bryan, even Danielson, right? I think that the way that I would do every collision now is basically have the main program the main program of the show center around Ricky Stark, center around Bryan Danielson, right? Bryan Danielson versus insert heel here, right? Have the in-ring parts of the show, so like the 30-minute main events and all that stuff. Ricky Starks, Bullet Club Gold, because those guys can kill it. And I know I keep hyping up Bullet Club Gold a lot, right? But they're the perfect faction in AEW. They have everything you need, right? Because the thing is, they're not too cartoonish, like how I find the Elite, right? The thing with the Elite is this. Tell me if you guys agree with me on this. Whenever Kenny Omega or Hangman Page wrestle with the Young Bucks, instead of being themselves, they end up being the third Young Buck. Does that make sense?
In some sense, yes.
Right? Like when I watch Kenny versus Konosuke Takeshita, right? That was my second favorite match at All Out. I love that match. It was beautiful, right? That's the Kenny Omega I want, right? I saw that guy. I'm like, where the hell has this guy been, right? I saw Adam Page in that Battle Royal. He was great, right? Even and him and Swerve are starting something out. That's going to be really good. I mean, I'm excited to see where that goes, right? But then every time they end up teaming up back with the Bucks, it's like all the interesting parts of them just go away, and they just end up doing the same stuff the Bucks do.
Well, and I think part of that too is, I hate to call it a curse, but it seems like anytime they're involved with the Bucks, it feels like
a cartoon.
Not so well. You'll use the word cartoon. I kind of feel like it kind of takes Hangman and Kenny Omega down, because they're not tag team wrestlers. They're singles guys. Sorry. I mean, it is what it is. Kenny Omega's
they're downgrading for the time being.
Right.
Exactly.
And even when they were a tag team, they were a great team. They were better than the Bucks.
Yeah. I mean, I remember when I was on the Chris Jericho cruise and I watched Kenny Omega and Hangman Adam Page defeat Scorpio Sky and Frankie for those championships, man. That was a killer match. It was awesome. And, nobody thought Young Bucks then, but then, like you mentioned, anytime you see them team up with the Bucks, it's almost like, in a way, they, like Carlos says, it downgrades them, or your reference that it feels like a cartoon.
Right. Like, I don't know what, I don't know what it is, man. But like, because I was just showing this to like one of my friends, right? He's more of a casual fan, so like he's seen like a couple matches, right? He watches like AEW occasionally, so he saw like the trio, one of the trios matches the Elite had in the best of 7, right? He watched that, and then later on he watched Kenny versus Takeshita, right? He's like, "Are you really telling me this Kenny guy is the same one that I saw in that trios match?" And I'm like, yeah, why? And he's like, well, I mean, in that match, he was just doing all the flips and stuff. But in this, the guy's like all serious and everything.
Well, he should go back and watch some of Kenny Omega's stuff from New Japan, his single stuff, because
dude, it was amazing.
Oh, it was killer. I mean,
like that's what I'm saying. Like singles Kenny Omega, and this is another thing too. I feel like the Elite need to be more focused on Dynamite, right? Because like Hangman and Swerve, that's a good start. Kenny and Takeshita just happened, right? But they're moving on from that, right? The Young Bucks need to get into an actual feud with somebody. Because what have they really been involved in as like forefronts? Because even in the feud with the Blackpool Combat Club and the Elite, they were background characters at best, right? Because the main crux of that feud was Paige and Moxley, right?
yes.
Like Paige and Moxley were the two main, like, I guess if you want to use a hockey term, line. They were the ones who were driving the line, right? Like the Young Bucks basically felt more like supporting characters. That's why they need to be in an actual feud with the team, right? Like a proper feud between like Young Bucks and Aussie Open, for example, right? Or the Young Bucks versus the Best Friends, right? Because there's a story where they can tell with the Best Friends never being able to win a tag team title, right? And you can have it so that the Young Bucks, by turning heel, beat Adam Cole and MJF for the Ring of Honor belts, and you can spin their thing off, and you can have a rivalry between the Best Friends and the Bucks for that. Like, the Bucks need to be focused on more, right? And when I say focused on, I mean like they need to actually do something rather than just being there. You get what I mean?
Yeah, I totally
right.
agree with that. I would
when's the last time you remember them in an actual feud?
Well, the problem too is like if you look on the board that we did, like our Titantron board, whatever you want to call it, Hamlin, I posted it's a YouTube show from Tranquilo Club. Watch it because he hits on a lot of stuff too. And the problem is just like it's Tony Khan's overprotecting all these guys, and he shouldn't be. Like for example, if you look at when Kenny Omega when they were first developing and getting AEW stable, he used the Elite to put all these other guys over. Like you saw Kenny Omega in single matches all the time losing. You saw the Young Bucks in tag team matches losing all the time too. And that's probably he go ahead.
They lost a private party, right?
Yes, exactly. And Kenny Omega lost to Pac. He lost to Jericho. He lost to Moxley. It's like all these other guys too. It's like he should be utilizing these guys to put these guys over again, instead of just protecting them. Trying to protect their wins and losses by putting them in these, like you said, in these feuds with these other factions. And if they are going to be feuds with other factions, then there needs to be established tag teams. Like there needs to be like a Bullet Club Gold versus the Elite would be the perfect feud, because you have the guns for the Young Bucks to feud with, and have a feud. Like there needs to be a blood feud for everybody involved in right. These other feuds too, instead of just putting these big faction feuds together. Because even like the House of Black and the Elite, we never got Brody, we never got Malachi versus Kenny Omega. We never got the Young Bucks versus those guys in a tag. We never got these single matches that would have been great matches, and now it's gone. The same thing, with the Elite and stuff like that too. We never got these single matches that would have benefited, the BCC. You never got all these other matches. There's so much that could have been done with these other feuds, as if it was done correctly, instead of having all these other, open matches.
Like, why did we not see, for example, right, in order to determine the advantage at Blood and Guts, why did we not see a match between between a Nick, I don't know, like Claudio versus Nick Jackson, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's a great TV. That's a good TV main event, right? It would be a great match, right? And like as you guys can tell, I'm not the biggest Young Bucks fan, but I'm not going to sit here and say that that's not going to be a good match. Obviously, it's going to be a good match, right? Or like we brought up the House of Black, right? The House of Black and Bullet Club Gold should be the main faction feud on Collision, because House of Black like Malachi and Brody have repeatedly said that they only want to work Saturdays. Because so House of Black is exclusively on Collision unless they need to be, right? Unless they need to be on Dynamite, they're on Collision basically. House of Black versus Bullet Club Gold, great feud, right? And Bullet Club Gold, you can see that they're getting more and more over, right, as baby faces. So you can have them, so you can eventually transition them into like cocky baby faces rather than like, you know, shitbag heels, right? Or you can just turn the House of Black's face because their gimmick works either way. Like, there's so much that you could possibly do with that feud right there, right? And with the even if you don't want to do the Elite versus the Blackpool Combat Club, right? They're if they build up the Mogul affiliates a bit more, they're doing a feud with Swerve and Hangman, right? You can you can even turn that into a trios feud or a faction feud with the Elite versus the Mogul Embassy, right? And as for the House of Black, right? They need a fourth guy for Bullet Club Gold. How about Wardlow? Wardlow ain't doing much right now.
With who?
Right? And you can even have those Wardlow, right? Wardlow and the House of Black versus Bullet Club Gold, right? Because Wardlow can be like, hey, look, in order to rebuild my career, I've had to go to a darker place. I've had to go to a place where I've never been before. Rather than trying to fight my demons, I decided to let them shape who I become.
Or the thing too, or even like another one too. And again, or even Andrade. You know, maybe him and Malachi have a singles match, and then they earn each other's respect. And Andrade joins them, and
LFI. There's another one.
Yeah.
Right. The House of Black versus LFI.
Yep. Exactly. There's so many. You know, there's Dark Order. You know there's so many different guys they could feud with. You know, like there's a lot of trios guys. You know, like even if they excuse me, if they like develop the varsity athletes a little bit to be the varsity athletes could be jobber guys that could be coming in to lose all these guys too, instead of bringing guys in from Mexico and everything else, or bringing guys they should be featuring their talent more and not be afraid to give these guys losses. And like in the guy, that's where I was. And that's what I was talking about too before you came in. Like again, so like, and that's where how you should book the Young Bucks as a tag team. They're pretty much they don't lose, but as single stars they lose, and that's the whole idea of tag teams. They're stronger as a whole, and that's why they're a tag team. So you utilize these guys as single matches to put other guys over instead of overprotecting them and not utilizing them. It just makes no sense whatsoever.
And like I mentioned before, this is where we need to go back to basics. Have your divisions, your heavyweight, your mid cards, your women's, your tag teams, your trios. That will benefit you in big ways and keep your program entertaining.
Absolutely. Like they're doing this whole angle now with LFI, right? They could slowly build up LFI back, right? Because LFI, the thing is, I know people want to see the feud, but they lose way too much on TV. Like,
no, I agree.
They lose way too much, right? So you could actually have, like Roosh versus Roosh, but you could have a match Roosh versus Action Andretti, right? And just for my personal happiness, let's do another version of Roosh versus Jack Perry, but with Roosh getting the win, right? Do you guys remember that match?
Yeah.
Right. Just for me, right? You can even have Roosh use the GTS, right? Like, do stuff like that, because then these are the this is what I don't get, man. They don't put the interesting and charismatic guys on TV enough, but we see people we see the boring people all the time.
You know, honestly, this is how I look at Tony Khan's booking right now. I look at him like when I see these wrestlers, I picture him with these action figures in his hands, right? So he has like his Roosh action figure, and he has his his like mirror action figure, right? And so he wants to put something against Jack Perry, and he's like, well, my Miro figure hasn't have any scratches yet, so it still looks brand new. But my Roosh guy already scratched up his boot, so I'm gonna just have him take the losses more. And it's like, no, like utilize all these guys, and it's like he has LFI in the bin of like these guys they're all scratched up now, so I don't mind if they get beat up in these matches that I do. And he's overprotecting these other guys, and like no, like spread the losses out more instead of having to always be LFI that's taking all the losses.
No, you're absolutely right, and like and like you're saying with Tony Khan's booking, this is what I think he does, right? I think Tony Khan basically finds two guys and tells them, hey, look, you're going to be in a feud for this long. This is what's going to happen. Figure it the fuck out, right? That's why when you have the guys who are great storytellers like the Elite, right? Like CM Punk, in my opinion, the best feud AEW's ever done, which is CM Punk and MJF, right? Those guys will knock it out of the park. People like Christian too. But when you have guys who don't have that experience yet, that's why like you see so much start stop stuff, and that's why there's a lot of sameness to a lot of things, right? I think that's I don't think Tony actually like books out storylines that much. I think he basically just makes the wrestlers figure it out, and not everybody can do that.
No, I think he has matches written down in his book, like this is the match that's going to happen. And then it's like, but then when he wants to get there, he kind of fast tracks it. Like to go off what you said, like to me, like take like another good idea would be take these guys. So if you have like your Jerichos, things like that, and put them underneath the wings of like give them 10 talents and have them book for these guys. Then if he can't do it, but it's just he doesn't want it. He's overprotecting the roster anywhere. He needs to just be utilizing it more to get people over.
No, you're right. And Tranquilo Club's great, by the way. I love that guy.
Yeah.
Plus, he's so he's on my side.
Yeah. So watch his latest thing because he just talks about it, like just the loss of CM Punk and just like the thing, like what he said was on point. He just quit it's overprotective booking. But like I disagree with what John said, like get back to basics. And to me, like I really hope that we're just seeing we're maybe seeing the downfall a little bit of Tony Khan's booking, and he's realizing maybe he can't do it all. And we're getting to the point where he's gonna start trusting people more, because I'm not liking what he's cooking right now. And it's not compelling television.
I mean, but the thing is, his booking hasn't actually changed that much in recent years. If you really look at it, right? His booking hasn't actually changed that much. The only thing is now we're used to it.
Well, it's just
so now we can actually see it, right?
Well, it's just become predictable is the problem.
Exactly. Like,
yeah.
Here's one, right? So one of like Punk's big things on Collision was that he didn't want people to come out to music unless they were actually announced as being on the show, right? Because I mean, logically, it makes sense, right? Why would you wait for the production guy to play your music before running out? Or if you're going to randomly confront somebody, why would your music get played, right? So things like that, right? How many times on Dynamite do we see this type of finish, right? Two guys are wrestling, the faction members come in, they try to interfere. The other guy from the faction comes out from the back, they beat each other up, and they fight to the outside.
A lot.
How many times do we see that?
More than we should.
All right. How many times do we see a huge brawl to end a segment?
A lot.
Very often lately.
But lately they've been better.
But it's become normal,
Right. And even the way they use security, I don't get, right? So literally last week on Dynamite, Jericho and Sammy started shoving. This week, I guess. Jericho and Sammy started shoving each other, and security came running out. Right? Literally on Collision the same week, you had Ricky Starks choke out Bryan Danielson, and nobody came out to do anything about it. You see what I'm saying? There's so many inconsistencies with details like this, right? That I don't get.
And I think that I think what that is I think that's going off of what you're saying, like there's too many, like it's like he does, like Tony Khan gives them a thing, and then he's letting the talent decide what they want to do too much with their individual matches, and there's not a head booker that's making sure the consistency flows through the whole product altogether. Right. I think it touches back to what you just already said is exactly what's going on. Right. And like even like too, you had Moxley and Samoa Joe using the same finisher. That was stupid.
I mean, same finisher. I don't really care that much, but because like it's a move is a move, right? Like how many guys use clotheslines? But it's the way they do it, right? Like okay, Jericho actually he talked about this. He said he talked to Punk and asked if he was going to use a Frankensteiner, and Punk said no, right? The reason he did that was because if you see two guys do the same spot in a match, if you see two guys do the same big spot on a card, it just feels weird, right? So like Blood is the best example of this in AEW. If it's a pay-per-view, that's one thing, right? Okay, I get it. But on we've seen multiple TV episodes where there's been matches where where every other match someone's bleeding. Right? Like this is the thing that like because Tony's never like I don't want to say he's not like he doesn't know how to book and all that because I don't think that's true. I don't think he's terrible, right? We're just seeing his flaws because and let's be honest, he hasn't really been in the wrestling business that long, right? So a lot of these things, only people in the business would know. Like, I'll be honest, I didn't even know about any of this stuff or think about it until I listened to a podcast with Jeff Jarrett, right? I listened to a Jeff Jarrett podcast, and he was talking about it. I'm like, oh yeah, that does make sense. Why? Because I never thought about it before. I'm like, why is this guy waiting for his entrance music to play before he saves someone?
Yeah, because back in the day, you never saw that. They just ran out.
Exactly.
I mean,
Right? And it made sense. And it makes it feel more instant.
you know, and I think the one thing that kind of brings back to mind was when Mankind won his first world title for the WWF. We saw Stone Cold Steve Austin come out, but he came out in his theme music. Why would you play the theme music if he's going to come in and take out The Rock, you know? But that's similar to like what you're saying. You know, if they're going to come out and make the save, why do you need to wait for the theme music? You're saying your theme music's more important than saving the guy?
I mean, yo, you remember when Jeff Hardy made his debut? He took a second to do the dance before saving Matt.
Yep, I remember that. It was just done terribly.
And I think that too, like, you know, to me, like I want to think like the highlight of the week for me was like the Swerve Hangman thing, because they're like, oh man, you're actually going to see two elite guys fighting each other, and they had a good promo, and one guy's going to actually have to take the loss, like that, and that's what everyone should be like this. We need to see more stuff like this. It shouldn't feel like a treat. It should be the norm. And two, like, you know, again for me, like, the fact that, you know, to me, like Tony Khan should have had Swerve and Keith Lee in this freaking world title eliminator thing. Like, you should have played off that match already. Like this, and that was the perfect opportunity to do it, and he blew it again.
Right.
Well, like, I'm still baffled why we had guys like Nick Wayne in there. Like, really?
Just because he knows they're going to take. But that's, again, we're talking about quit being overprotective. You know, it should have been the top 8. It should have been the top 8. You know. Or at least top 8, you know, guys like, you know, that are going to be, that are top 8 single stars, or again, like we're talking about, utilize 4 top single stars and then utilize 4 tag team members, like a Dax Harwood, like a Matt Jackson, guys that were believable, but at the same time you probably knew they're going to take a loss. Just more believable guys in the tournament than the ones that we got.
No, you're absolutely right, and like, it's just, I don't know, man. I think you're absolutely right in the fact that he's too protective of people taking losses, and I think this is why he does it. I'm not defending it. I'm just saying this is why I think he does it. I think he's doing it because what happened is, in the early years of Dynamite, remember, people kept on being annoying, or not annoyed, but people kept on being pissed off that like Kenny Omega was on a losing streak and that whole angle, right? And then you had people like Pac who would literally just show up and lose, and Lance Archer, right? Literally, Lance Archer's entire gimmick was, right, attacks guy, gets title match next week, loses title match, leaves. Right? Oh, there's another guy for the meat division, Lance Archer.
Yep, that's not true. Yep. But that's one thing. Like, if again, just to plug the Tranquilo, the thing that Tranquilo was talking about on this latest episode that he did was the fact that, like, he you know, the protective booking, you had Cody Rhodes feuding with QT Marshall, because, you know, he don't and again, I love QT, but he has no business feuding with Cody Rhodes. But it's like, it was a feud, instead of giving us like an Omega versus Cody feud, like he's feuding with QT Marshall, because again, he doesn't want to see Cody take a loss, instead of giving us like an Omega and Cody feud, and, you know, and it's like, and that's just the thing where the overprotective booking, have these guys feuding with guys where you're like, damn, who's going to lose, instead of these just overprotective things where it's like you're giving to somebody who's believable, but there's really not. And it's just filler, and yeah, it's entertaining because the guys are entertaining, but it's just not a believable feud in the end, and it's not a money feud. You know, that's the overprotective part too.
No, you're absolutely right. You know what the money feud would have been? Cody versus CM Punk.
Oh yeah. That should have been the feud right away. She shouldn't have waited for it, because again, you never know what's going to happen, and to me, like, that's the biggest thing. Where you're talking about, like, when I tuned into Collision today, like yesterday, like, okay, you learned a lesson, right? So you saw that, again, anything can happen in wrestling, right? You just lost CM Punk, like all this other stuff happened. Like, so how are you going to react to it? And he does, and it's still going like the slow burn. It's like, dude, give us cook already. Cook. Like, quit waiting, quit holding off. Like, just give it to us now.
No, you're absolutely right. It's just, it feels like they're just in a holding pattern half the time.
Like, and even for Moxley, like, like right now, like he should have somebody coming after him to be the next contender for his title instead of just like doing these open challenges, and that thing too, it's like the last few weeks on Collision, all I've seen is Action Andretti lose, but now I'm supposed to believe he's a viable contender for the title. It's just inconsistent booking. And to me, like, and again, bless Mox for being so giving, but he should have totally squashed Andretti, and it should have been a 2-minute match.
Right. I mean, I don't think he's gonna be like on Collision every week. I think he just did it because like it was in Ohio.
Yeah.
Right, but like, no, Mox versus Action Andretti. Like, I don't want to see him face like top guys just yet. Right. I get what they're doing, building him up a little bit. Right. Like, for example, a match that would be fun to run back. John Moxley versus Pac. Oh no, he's injured. Sorry. Like here, John Moxley versus Trent Barretta. We've seen them wrestle before, right? Isn't that happening next week?
I think so.
Moxley,
yeah.
Trent, and then eventually you can level up more into like lower mid card guys, right? Guys like Daniel Garcia, Ethan Page, right? You can even do Mox and Jericho one time, right? Mox and Jericho, Mox and Andrade, right? Mox and Roosh. I think Roosh should be the one to take the. I don't think Roosh should be the one to take the belt for him, right? But or not Roosh. Sorry, who's the third guy in
Drilistico?
LFI? Not Drilistico, the white guy.
Preston Vance.
Right, Mox versus Preston Vance.
And
right?
they have a story going too. They have a big storyline arc going.
Right. Because when Moxley was originally supposed to turn heel, right before he left for he
gave him a beat down with tore his mask and everything. Yeah,
he destroyed Preston Vance, right?
He did.
So you
yes,
can have that storyline going on too, and you can also reestablish Preston Vance as like somebody to like take notice of, right? Fucking like what's the name? Perro Peligroso.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. The booking in AEW, overprotectiveness is a huge problem. Tranquilo Club, I'm glad somebody finally addressed that. The other problem is there's no like, the show itself does not feel harmonious. That's the word I was looking for. With Collision, the entire show felt harmonious, right, before. And Dynamite doesn't, but Dynamite is that way by design, right? Collision was not that way. Collision was the opposite. And I don't want them to change that, because then why would I watch Collision when I can just watch Dynamite,
And too, like the thing, like, and then going back to Ricky Starks and Big Bill, they have that total Shawn Michaels Diesel thing going right now. And again, you could just interchange those guys fighting every week to help the other guy win. Like, there's no reason why those guys shouldn't be wrestling every week either. They should be the staples of Collision because they're great together.
Right. Like, no, you're absolutely right.
But again, and that's why I said for me, I just want to, like you said, the more consistent booking. And again, and as much as I love Phoenix and Helico, I don't need to see them on Collision fighting. I'm sorry, I just don't. That could have been a match for Ring of Honor. Should have been a match for Ring of Honor.
Right. When's the last time Angelico was even on television?
Yeah, and that's just utilize these guys more to cook and utilize these other bigger stars to, again, give people a reason to tune in and not to tune out. And I feel like he's giving people every reason to want to tune out instead of want to tune in. And it's just backwards booking.
Like, it feels like they don't care. And that's what I don't like. Because that's the problem with the Rampage, right? That's the biggest reason why nobody watches Rampage anymore.
I think the right word is they feel content with what they're doing and they don't feel hungry, and they should feel hungry every week. It's almost like I got cereal in the cupboard. I'm gonna just have a bowl of cereal where I have ingredients for for steak and lobster, but I don't want to take the time to go cook that. So I'm gonna just have a bowl of cereal instead. That's exactly what it feels like.
Right.
Well, Hamlin, did you have anything else you want to talk about this week about the AEW or WWE? Let me ask, if who do you want to see CM Punk go to WWE?
As a fan, yes, obviously. Like, look, I can't say that I have no bias in that matter because I'll just be disingenuous, right? Like, I don't know if you guys remember that. Like, CM Punk is the guy who got me back into wrestling. He is the reason that I'm still a wrestling fan to this day. Because if you want a quick story, right? I actually I was about to quit watching wrestling, right? I'm like, okay, I'm gonna watch one more show, and I'll see if it's worth it. That show was the day that he did the pipe bomb, right? And keep in mind, I was 10 years old when he did the pipe bomb, right? And I was about to quit. I'm like, it's so annoying, man. John Cena always wins. There's nobody interesting. I'm like, whatever. One more show. If it's good, I'll watch. If it's not, I'm done. And that was the day he cut the pipe bomb, right? And like I said before, Punk's always been my favorite because he no matter what, he always felt genuine, and he always felt like a genuine guy in a land of cartoons. And at the end of the day, he was just entertaining, bro. Like, this man could talk his way into seats. He was great as a heel. He was great as a babyface, right? He always had some fire in him, and even his matches were good. So would I like to see him in WWE? From a fan perspective, yes, all the way. Main event, WrestleMania, all that. From a realistic perspective, keep him part-time. Have him be there. Give him, like, you know how Batista was when he was part-time? Keep him there for like 3 months, right? Have him work his program. No house shows, no TVs. Have him work his program. Be there for 3 months. Rest up. Work his program. Be there for 3 months. Rest up. If the program is hot enough, night one WrestleMania main event. Rest up. Retirement angle. End his career.
So I'm with you. I'm with you. Like, I think if he comes back, I think that, and we'll wrap this up at this. I think he should come back and be the thing he used to despise. So he should come back as a part-timer, somebody taking out someone else's spot. Like, he needs to come back being the heel, being everything that he used to despise. And there's money in that feud. So let me ask you this one question. Then, so if he does come back, and let's say, and then we'll cut this episode. If he comes back, and let's say that he comes back and he's gonna have a feud with 3 guys. He gets to go over on one, has to put over 2. Who are you gonna have him go over on? And who are you gonna have him put over?
I would have him go over on. Let's see here. Who are great guys who can wrestle American style and talk? That's basically what you want in a CM Punk feud, right? I would have him go over on Seth Rollins, right?
Okay.
Go over on Seth Rollins because I think that's a good match for him. I would have him put over Finn Balor. And I would have him put over either Braun Breaker or actually, no, you know what? No, I would have him put over Carmelo Hayes. So
you wouldn't have him fight Cody Rhodes.
Oh shit! I forgot about Cody. Sorry. All right. Forget the second thing I said. Right? He beats Seth, puts over Cody, and ends his career, or one of the two, right? But I think Cody should be a feud, and I think he should end his career putting up the most charismatic person on the NXT roster, whoever that is.
So Grayson Waller. Okay, got
it. Hey! Let's not get crazy now. No, I love Grayson Waller though.
I love him too.
Respect him. I love Grayson Waller.
Okay, so let's choose. So you said, is it going to be Carmelo, or is it going to be Braun Breaker? Which are you going to have him put over?
Carmelo. I prefer Carmelo, but I don't know if you can tell. My favorite wrestlers are basically heels who can cut promos.
So you like Grayson Waller then?
Yeah, I like Grayson Waller. Heels who can cut promos and feel genuine, right? That's all I need.
Right? Sounds good.
It's why I gravitated to guys like Punk, MJF, Eddie Kingston, right? Love these guys.
Sounds good, man. Well, we thank you for joining us again, and come back and join us Wednesday after Dynamite too.
Absolutely, I'll try. Absolutely, I'm gonna try my best.
Thank you, man.
You guys.
We appreciate you.
All right. Well, without any further ado, I want to give a big thank you to X Space, StreamYard, and Spotify for podcasters for becoming our special home end platform to get all these episodes out to places like Spotify, Apple Podcast, iHeartRadio, and much more. Also, be sure to check out our website. I can really talk. Be sure to check our website out, www.wrestlingfansinsight.com, where you can find us on your favorite audio streaming platform. And if there's a platform on there that you like to listen to, but we're not on there, let me know and I will get us on there. If you also happen to like the show, we would appreciate a 5-star review. And if possible, leave us a typed out review for us.
Use your words, John. Use your words.
I'm tired. That camping trip wore me out, folks. But yeah, and you also can interact with us in many ways. We're on Facebook on the groups, the Fans of Pro Wrestling, but you can also follow us on X. Carlos, you want to give your X handles there?
Yeah, so at C2LOS77. Also, Conquer the No is my nonprofit. And then also, if you want to find me on Instagram, rainbowgoodness_.
And you can find me on the X app at I cannot talk today. I quit. You can find me on wfincite podcast, and also be sure to check us out Wednesday night on X Space again, 10 p.m. Eastern Time, Wednesday night. Carlos will be hosting Wednesday Night Chaos there. And also, we will probably have a special episode next week as we will not be here live. So,
possibly to be determined.
Yes, you never know with our crazy schedules going on. So, but I also want to give a big shout out Bryan, the Bryan Ballard. You can find him on the X app at the Bryan Atkins. Also, Heather at Bama Girl _4 _EVA, Bama Girl forever, Roll Tide Bitches.
Huge Roman Reigns fans. Dominic, Rey Mysterio. If you guys like those guys, Dominic and Roman Reigns. Heather's a follow. Go give her some good Roman Reigns and Dominic gifts on her page. She'd love it.
Or just get in her DMs and yell, acknowledge me, woman. No,
exactly.
And also a big shout out to my brother who's still up in the mountains and made me jealous because I came back down for the podcast. My brother,
responsibilities.
I know. God damn it. You can find him on the X app also at William Hoppe, HOPPE number 8, at William Hoppe 8. As for Carlos and myself, we will catch you again on Wednesday night, 10 p.m. Eastern Time on the X app. Have a great time, everyone.
We'll see you Wednesday, guys. Thank you for joining us.